Hi everyone and welcome back to SwitchUp and to something a little bit special because it's the Untold Tales sale, which is in collaboration with Cubic Games, and as such there's quite a few gems here that we've never been able to speak about.
Yeah, so Cubic Games have got another sale on and they've asked us if we'd make a video just to go through the games on sale, of course, and the process you need to go through to get the very best discounts. These discounts apply to the US region, but there is a blanket sale across the EU and the UK, so we'll look at those prices too. And there'll be some games in here, hopefully, that you'll think are worth picking up.
What are the best games on sale? Well, let's find out.
This only applies to the US, don't forget. In the UK and EU regions, you will just have a blanket price on the games that we'll mention later. But for the US, what you need to do is you need to download the game Colouring Book, which you can do so for free, and then buy any of the 10 games shown on screen at the moment. You'll get that game for 49 cents, and then owning one of those 10 games will make you eligible to buy one of the games we're about to talk about now for a lower price. Hopefully that all makes sense. We did make a previous video for Cubic Games which was very similar in terms of the structure of the deals, where we looked at these 10 games in more detail, so I will link to that video now if you want more information on these 10 games, but we're now going to move on to the 12 games that we want to highlight from Untold Tales.
First up then, we've got Arise, A Simple Story, the Definitive Edition. Now as Glen mentioned, it does have a EU discount of 75%, but you're going to get much more for the owner's discount in the US region, taking it down to $1.99. It describes itself as an emotional journey of losing the love of one's life, and it's a 3D adventure tile. You'll have control over the time, which will affect the entire surroundings that you're in. But you can also invite a second player along. It's a really nice co-op experience. And this version has been fully customized for the Nintendo Switch. It includes gyroscope support, which you know I absolutely love, an art book, as well as the OG soundtrack. It has a really beautiful art style and is well worth picking up. If you're going to get it at that owner's discount price as well, it is an absolute bargain, so consider checking that one out. It's just a 3.7GB download and worthy of your collection. Then we've got Aspire Ina's Tale, which on this discount in the US is going to take it down to 38 cents, which is an absolutely ridiculous price for what is a relatively short experience, around 3 or 4 hours. But you'll have to guide Ina, who finds herself trapped within this large tower. She has special powers that enable her to manipulate different objects to help her solve puzzles, and has a really nice and simple to understand story. It's very easy to pick up and play, and it all fits into quite a small 1.9GB download. Atone is a really interesting one. This only just came out on the Switch. I think it was January the 27th, and the owner's discount takes it down to $7.49, which is by far the cheapest it's ever been. Now this is quite critically acclaimed, and it's set around the gods who have abandoned Midgar, and it is a combination of elements from almost different genres. Now while you don't actually have to go down the violent route, there is combat here, but it's more like a dance, using the music as a central part of that combat system. Then there are the puzzles as well. These become incrementally more difficult and will also reveal lots of hidden secrets and passages. Combine all of that with a beautiful soundtrack composed by Australian artist Luminist, aka James Shaw, I think I'm saying that right, a real digital synth style sound. Now that one is just 3.5GB and well worth considering if you like what you've heard. Badland doesn't need much introduction, and this Game of the Year edition is one of the games that I think one of the first games I played through back on mobile years ago, but it still carries over nicely. A very good, what I would class as loading game, something you can pick up and play in small bursts or for longer sessions. And to compare it to something today, if you think about the control system of Flappy Birds, where you've got to hold the button down to keep this thing afloat, it's very similar to that, except you've got a large group of you making your way through these stages. Now what I liked about this is that it can have co-op for up to 4 players, which is absolute carnage, as I'm sure you can imagine with everything going on screen. But visually it still has a nice art style that might remind you of a few other games, such as Limbo. So for 864 megabytes, you could certainly do a lot worse, and is probably one of my favourite loading games. Now, Beautiful Desolation caught my eye when it first came out. It had an art style very similar to some of the isometric adventures that I enjoyed as a child. Things like Wasteland, it looked like it was going to replicate those. Now it's quite different to those games. It's more linear than those, I guess. It's from I believe a South African team, and And that obviously affects the artists that have created it as well. You've got all of the accents there. But the storyline is actually quite interesting, and it covers, I believe, over 80 different screens. Now, if you've ever played these style games, it's all about the different areas being handcrafted and hand painted with interactable elements. They've done a few things to improve the Switch version, such as changing the controls to make them more appropriate, as well as tweaking the UI to some degree. Now, I wouldn't say this is the best of the games on this list, but for this price at the moment, I think it's 59 cents for the owner's discount in the US regions. I mean, yeah, you'd be silly not to add it to your collection if you're a fan of these isometric adventures. Now, Blazing Beaks is one that Glen and I have both played before, and it's very much a traditional roguelite in one sense, aka you're trying to make your way through stages, beating a boss and then moving on. You do get to visit a shop in the middle. The interesting twist here is that there are almost negative pickups, so you'll get a character pickup and it will degrade your abilities. It might reduce your health or reduce your potency of attack, but then you can trade that in at a shop that will give you a much better one. So it's very similar to the curse system from Curse of the Dead Gods, whereby you take on a negative, and if you can survive with it, then it becomes a positive. It's a nice system and it's a good game. It does have 4-player multiplayer competitive against each other, but it's only 2-player cooperative. It's just 508 megabytes, and there's potentially hundreds of hours of gameplay here. Well worth it at that price. Then we have the owner's discount for Dex, which takes it to 59 cents, a ridiculous price for what is actually an open world adventure that uses that 2D perspective. Now, Glenn, this uses probably our favourite theme, which is cyberpunk near future.
Yeah, cyberpunk is the theme here, and it's got quite an interesting system, this one, whereby you can almost choose how you play it, can't you? You can go stealth, you can go all guns blazing, and that'll affect obviously the world around you almost as you play. This is a really interesting game, and I like seeing 2D cyberpunk games because cyberpunk has become almost like this big 3D open world these days, hasn't it? You know, it's nice to go back into a 2D realm for a cyberpunk game.
It does have full voiceovers as well for the English cast, and as Glenn said, it's completely open in terms of how you approach different situations. Really nice game. It clocks in at 6.0 gigs, so it's a little larger than some of the others, and it will take you around 10 to 15 hours to finish.
Lovely, right, the next one is Gamedec, and this is the definitive edition. Now, I have not played this one, Mark, I know you have, and I'll pass over to you in a minute, but I do know that you are a Gamedec, that's what you are, isn't it? You're almost like a police officer that investigates people's dreams, is that right?
Yeah, so you're a Gamedec, which, as you say, they go into the VR, so the virtual games that these different people are taking part in, and they're trying to solve crimes that have happened within them. So obviously these virtual worlds have real life consequences, and it's a really interesting, let's be honest, it's been inspired by things like Blade Runner. They've kind of taken that into a different, a different realm, and it works really well. What has really impressed me about this game and this team is they've released a few patches and things like that, but they basically made the Gamedec standard version, the definitive edition, for absolutely nothing. You know, an upgrade came out and suddenly you had a new story, you had some new content,
nice.
Like, fair play to them. And all of that fits into 4.9 gigs, and you're looking at around about 15 hours, but yeah, I enjoyed these a lot.
Next then we have Golf Club Wasteland, which is on sale, provided obviously you meet the criteria, for just 29 cents. Now this tells the tale of the Earth long since having been left deserted. People now live on Mars, but you are someone that likes to go back to Earth every so often to play around a golf.
Makes absolute sense. I can see you doing that. So this is 3 stories, I believe, that are combined to make the one narrative, with this lovely radio station playing in the background. I do really like the premise of this, and I know a few people that have really enjoyed it. It's a bit of a hidden gem on Switch as well. As in fairness, a lot of these Untold Tales games, I haven't seen a Metacritic below 75 so far in any of the ones we've spoken about.
It takes a few hours, about 3 to 4 hours to finish, and it's about 1.3 gigs in size, so not the biggest by any stretch of the imagination. And yeah, definitely another game worth picking up. Next we have Splatter Zombiecalypse Now. Now we've played this one in co-op, haven't we? It's one of those classic twin stick shooters, top down view. You have to survive waves of zombies. It gets very difficult very, very quickly, but it is a lot of fun. Again, this one's on sale for just 23 cents. And as we've said for a few of these, for that price you really can't go wrong if you're looking for some quick, fast-paced action.
So with this one, yeah, we played together in co-op. I think this is for high score chasers, you know, from what I understand. The high score leaderboards is the way to go, and there are 16 different levels in the story mode, which I don't think we actually played. We were all about just playing cooperatively. But it is fun. I wouldn't say it's my favourite on this list, but for a quick arcade experience, I mean, you can see exactly what you're getting on the screen. It gets pretty intense.
The next one is Hong Kong Massacre, which is on sale for just 59 cents. This is one that I've played and really enjoyed actually. It's very similar to something like Hotline Miami in terms of you'll need to kind of bust into rooms or into buildings, take out enemies before they can take you out. One hit and you're dead and you have to start again. And you have to kind of plan your route, a bit of strategy to it in terms of how you do it whilst being all guns blazing at the same time. It has that kind of strange juxtaposition to it. Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I think I reviewed this. It went into one of our multi-review roundup videos. Again, if you're just looking for something quick and fun, if you don't mind dying a lot, because you will die a lot, it's definitely worth playing.
It's not the longest. You're looking at around 4 or 5 hours, and that fits into 4.1 gigs. What lies in the multiverse is an unusual 2D adventure where things go a little crazy, apparently. Now, it's not one that I've played, I'm going to be honest, but judging by the blurb, it looks to be some form of walking simulator combined with a platformer, and you'll be able to shift between the real world and an alternate reality. It has a pixel art style that on the surface of it looks quite simplistic, but with that mechanic, can actually look quite nice.
Yep, this one is on sale for 44 cents, and it's just under half a gig in size, so again, one that won't take up too much space.
Just looking over those prices for the owner's discount, you could essentially own 11 of these games for around about $8, which is an incredible saving. And as I say, most of these are very highly rated on Metacritic. So a big thanks to Cubic and Untold Tales for sponsoring this video. Let us know any of the pickups that you've made. It is nice to see some new titles that we haven't spoken about before. I'm sure you're appreciating it as much as we are, and there are some really good little gems here.
Yep, thanks again to Cubic and Untold Tales for sponsoring this video. Thank you, of course, to all of you for watching. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support. And until next time, of course, happy gaming.